Happy German Unity Day, everybody, and Tony here with a review of two opera productions. The first one being the third act of Wagner's Die Meistersinger von Nürnberg, which was shown at the Staatsoper im Schillertheater. The conductor was Daniel Barenboim. The production was by Andrea Moses. The set design was handled by Jan Pappelbaum. The costumes were handled by Adriana Braga Perecki. The lights were handled by Olaf Fraser. The chorus master was Martin Wright. The dramaturgy was handled by Thomas Wieck, who was also one of my theater theory teachers from Art of Acting, which was the acting school I graduated in, and Jens Schroth. And the music consultant was Moritz Lobeck. Now, Meistersinger von Nürnberg is one of Richard Wagner's most important operas of all time. Well, one of them, mostly because this is an opera in which it talks about how proud Germany is when it comes to its art. And it also has a lot of historical background, especially when it comes to the Meistersinger, known in English as Master Singers, who are basically these middle-class men, depending on what age they are or depending on what profession they have, who participate in poetry and lyric and unaccompanied song contests, and they would usually present their work as to be judged. And it really doesn't matter what profession they have. They just compose something, they make a poem out of something, they just present it, and they'll just see which one ends up being one of the best. So this opera definitely does have a lot of historical context, mostly because of the fact that this was set in like the 16th century. And not to mention, one of the characters in this opera, Hans Sachs, was also based on a real-life person of the same name, and he was also the same gentleman who also founded the Master Singers Guild and was also a very well-known singer, poet, playwright, and cobbler, and thus represented here in this opera. Not to mention, Hans Sachs is also one of the most human characters in any Wagner opera, the other ones being that of Lohengrin. And this is what really makes his character very popular, mostly because of the fact that he's always the guy who always has a lot of words of wisdom, and he's always someone who's very clever and someone who definitely keeps the plot moving along while still maintaining that humanity and that humility that really makes him such a character to really, really reach out for and really love so much and really enjoy as well. And not to mention, this opera definitely has a lot of challenging works for the male voice. You have your bassos, you have your bass baritones, and tenors. Of course, you also have two female voices in the likes of Eva Pogner, Veit Pogner's daughter, and Magdalena, who are sung by a soprano and a mezzo-soprano respectively. And not to mention, another interesting trivia about this opera is that the character of Sixtus Beckmesser is probably one of the most complex, villains, so to say, in this opera. Not because of the fact that he was also according to legend, that Beckmesser was also a caricature of Eduard Hanslick, who was a very well-known music critic at the time of Wagner. Not to mention, what really made Beckmesser very interesting and kind of a human villain is that, he represents like the conservative art, while Hans Sachs represents, someone who's very open to a lot of new ideas, and Walter von Stautzing, who was a knight from Franconia, represents the new art. So you have a lot of these thoughts of the arts and the philosophy behind every single one of them, and just how there's always this struggle between old versus new coming into play in this opera, which really makes this pretty much one of the household names in terms of Wagnerian operas. And not to mention, the overture is extremely well known. You know, the one that goes dun 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 da 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 da. Yeah, that overture is definitely one of the most well-known Wagnerian overtures of all time, aside from the Tannhäuser overture and the Flying Dutchman overture being some of the most popular ones as well. Not to mention, you also have very well-known arias in this opera, namely the Madness monologue by Hans Sachs and Hans Sachs' shoemaking song Jerum Jerum, and also the final aria Verachtet mir die Meister nicht and Was dürftet ihr die Flieder. And you also have Veit Pogner's Der schöne Fest Johannistag, Eva Pogner's O sag's mein Freund, Walter von Stolzing's Prize Song, and even Beckmesser's mangled version of the Prize Song, and even the sextet Selig wie der Sonne. Now, these are some of the well-known pieces that are found in this opera, and some that have pretty much made me come, well, especially Morgenlicht leuchtend, just pretty much after the opera ended, as I went out of the theater. So with that out of the way, let's get on to what I thought about the production, the singers, and the conducting. So it's kind of a pity that I didn't see the first and second act of this opera, because it also had its premiere on the 3rd of October, which was last Saturday. But it was safe to say that because of that, it was sort of a pity that I missed it, because I also had to catch up with a good friend of mine, but at least I managed to catch the third act. So from what I could see from the third act, I definitely have to say that the production was pretty much innovative, as it doesn't really take place in 16th century Germany, but it has basically transported the action to the Germany of today. Like, you even see people using selfie sticks when you go outside any building. And not to mention, you also see Hans Sachs' study, which is so full of books from various authors, music sheets, and you even see characters smoking as well. Well, smoking cigarettes. And not to mention, the backdrops are extremely colorful. I mean, the first part of the third act is basically set in Hans Sachs' study. And then you see him going through some texts, and you also have a library behind him. And then the last few moments of the third act takes place outside a palace, and then you also see a lot of the singers doing their thing, and even a logo which has a lot of the last names of the various singers participating. For example, you have a lot of different fonts used for different singers, as if though they were to represent TV networks in Germany. And the final moment of the third act reveals that there is a hilly setting, which I really found awesome, as if though to suggest that there's a definitely brighter future for Germany, and especially for the arts of Germany, as long as we continue to break barriers. And the costumes are really colorful and really gorgeous. However, if I have one gripe, I would have to say that David's wig does not really look so good at all. But still, despite that one complaint, even though it's small, I have to say that the costumes and the scenery were all colorful, and I definitely had a ball watching every single moment just pop out on screen. It was just great. And now let's get on to the singers. Let's start off with our, main father figure / hero, Hans Sachs. Now, the thing about Hans Sachs is that he's been performed by a lot of dramatic baritones, bass baritones, and basso cantantes everywhere. Personally, I always prefer a deep sounding basso cantante voice to really sing Hans Sachs. You know, any basso who has sung the likes of Heinrich der Vogler, Fasolt, Gornemans, Boris Godunov, Philip II, Fiesco, and many other roles of the Italianate basso repertoire. Today he was sung by the Heldenbariton Wolfgang Koch. Now, Wolfgang Koch is very well known in a lot of the Heldenbariton and bass baritone repertoire. He specializes in the roles like Telramund and Albeit, and I also have his Barock on DVD, in which he performed at the Salzburger Festspiele about 4 years ago. His singing and acting as Hans Sachs was just extremely gorgeous and powerful. He has a very well-toned technique to his voice. It's round, it's rich, it's supple, and it's just so well executed. He manages to really bring out the human sides of Hans Sachs. He manages to bring out his fun sides, his serious sides. He just manages to make Hans Sachs a very well-rounded character. He makes him a father figure. He makes him a teacher. He makes him a lot of different things that really makes Hans Sachs a very well-rounded character. Coupled with a very excellent technique that he uses in his voice, which is round, rich, velvety, and just the right amount of cavernous low notes with some ringing top notes, you really definitely get a recipe for something that is just so profound and so beautiful. And Wolfgang Koch really, really had a ball with playing this iconic figure. And then we move on to Veit Pogner. Now, the thing about Veit Pogner is that, of course, with Hans Sachs, you need a basso cantante or a bass baritone. In some occasions, you need a dramatic baritone, which is also why Hans Sachs is pretty much one of the most coveted Wagnerian bass baritone basso cantante roles. The others being Gornemans, Wotan, Hunding, Fasolt, and the Wagner kings like Landgraf Hermann, Heinrich der Vogler, and King Mark. Now, with Veit Pogner, you need a basso profondo. Of course, basso cantantes have also had luck singing this character as well, but you also need a cavernous voice, one that has sung Osmin, the Commendatore, Zarastro, Pimen, the Grand Inquisitor from Don Carlo, Sparafucile from Rigoletto, Arkel from Pelléas and Melisande, Titorel, Fafner, Hagen, any of the deep, cavernous basso roles. And with Veit Pogner, he was sung by Kwang Chulyun, who is a very well-known basso cantante specializing in different types of roles, whether it be the Italian roles of Philip II, the Grand Inquisitor, the King and Rampus from Aida, and even that of Sparafucile from Rigoletto, and the title role of Don Giovanni and Leporello and the Commendatore, the French roles of Mephistopheles from Gounod's Faust and Bertram from Meyerbeer's Robert le Diable, and the German roles of Hunding, Fasolt, Heinrich der Vogler, Veit Pogner, Landgraf Hermann, Gornemans, the Hermit from Der Freischütz, and many, many others. Now, I also have his Fasolt on DVD, in which he performed very wonderfully in Spain, and he has a very wonderful voice. With him as Veit Pogner, he definitely has a velvety timbre, which is no surprise because I've also watched some selections of him on YouTube. Very fine voice, very great execution, and even though his tremolo can be kind of there sometimes, it still manages to have a very fine quality in his voice. It's round, it's rich, it's velvety, it's gorgeous, and he has, great acting chops as well. And like I said, I even heard him sing Banco's aria Come dal ciel precipita alongside some lira on YouTube. A very fine technique and just a very fine voice all around, which was definitely very helpful in his performance as Veit Pogner. And then we get to Sixtus Beckmesser, sung by Markus Verba. Now, the thing about Sixtus Beckmesser is that he's also been sung by a lot of dramatic baritones and a lot of comic baritones as well. Mostly, he is one of the most coveted baritone roles, whether he be a dramatic baritone or a lyric baritone or a comic baritone. And with Beckmesser, he's one of those sympathetic villains, because even though he always wants to have the traditional side and he doesn't really take too kindly to Walter von Stolzing's way of doing new things, he's just trying to, quote-unquote, preserve the German art, even though he does come off failing in the end. So with Markus Verba, he's very well known for singing in a lot of Mozartian works, like the title role of Don Giovanni, Papageno, and the Count Almaviva from Marriage of Figaro, and Guglielmo from Così fan tutte, but has also ventured into some Italianate repertoire, like Rodrigo di Posa from Don Carlo. He has a very fine voice, he has a very fine stage presence, he has very great comic timing, and he's definitely a joy to watch as Sixtus Beckmesser. Every movement he makes, every nuance he has in store definitely comes to life with this gentleman. And like I said, his voice is very fine all around. It doesn't crack. It doesn't resort to doing a lot of forced comedy. It's naturally placed, and he definitely has a lot of great comic timing. Then we move on to Fritz Kotner, sung by Jürgen Linn. Now, even though Fritz Kotner's role in this opera isn't too huge, his role is very substantial, as he needs a dramatic baritone or even a bass baritone to really sing his lines really well, not to mention have great acting chops. With Jürgen Linn, when he opened his mouth, I was totally in awe. I was thinking to myself, why couldn't this guy be Hans Sachs? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's just the thing about Hans Sachs. If you have the voice, then you can definitely do it. With Jürgen Linn, he definitely has a very fine timbre to his voice. It's just gorgeously formed. It's velvet. It's just so rich in its execution that I just found myself so awestruck. I felt like my jaw was about to drop. And given the time that he had on stage with that fine voice, it was just so gorgeous. It made me think to myself, why couldn't I watch more videos on him on YouTube? Why? Just why? And it makes me realize this is definitely an artist that I'd love to watch more of, whether on live or on Spotify or on YouTube. He's definitely someone that I've heard a lot of great things about, because he's also one of the very fine interpreters of a lot of Wagnerian anti-heroes and villains and heroes, like Wotan and Telramund, and even that of Berg's Wozzeck, and a lot of the bass baritone roles. So I really hope to hear a lot more of Jürgen Linn live, or even on some recordings. And then we get to the main tenor hero of this opera, Walter von Stolzing, sung by Klaus Florian Vogt. Now, the thing about Walter von Stolzing is that, of course, his part is usually done by a Heldentenor. However, a lot of spinto tenors and a lot of full lyric tenors have found great success in singing this iconic tenor character. You have your Edgardos, you have your Alfredo Germans, you have your Fausts, you have your Raoul de Nargy, you have your Valsons. From Mireille, you have your Don Ottavios, you have your Idomeneos, you have your Taminos, you have a lot of these tenors who specialize in the lyric and spinto tenor repertoire sing this very wonderful tenor character. And with Klaus Florian Vogt, he really sang his heart out. Now Klaus Florian von Vogt, if you haven't really, known who he was as a tenor, I saw him last year as Faust from Berlioz's La Damnation de Faust. Like I said in that review, he's very well known in the Germanic tenor repertoire, though he also branched out into the Czech tenor repertoire and even some of the French repertoire. And he has a very lyrical quality to his voice, which can be kind of off-putting for some people, even because they want a more full-bodied tenor voice. But for me, Klaus Florian Vogt is a very fine singer, which is no surprise because, as I said before, he had his beginnings as a lyric tenor, singing the likes of Tamino from Magic Flute, one of the tenor roles from The Bartered Bride by Bedřich Smetana, and Matteo from Arabella. Nowadays, he sings a lot of the German repertoire, specifically from Wagner, like the likes of Siegmund, Loge, Parsifal, and Lohengrin. Like I said, he has a very fine voice. I really love his rendition of his prize song because I thought it was just really well sung, gorgeously executed, with a very fine timbre, and just the right amount of sweetness that can really make Walter von Stolzing a very gentlemanly hero, which really made me enjoy his interpretation more than anything else in the world. He's one of the finest interpreters of this role, and I definitely enjoyed his presence on stage. And then we have David, sung by Stefan Treddel. Now, David has to have a lot more of a lyrical quality to his voice. Of course, he's been done by a lot of character tenors, but with David, I usually like more of a lyric tenor. Of course, while Walter von Stolzing has been sung by a lot of the Belmontes, or Taminos, a lot of Taminos, Pedrillos, Belmontes, Alfredos, Edgardos, Tonios from La Fille du Régiment, and even a lot of light lyric tenors flock to sing this role, because it's a lot of fun to sing as well. He has a lot of florid lines, and he has a lot of wonderful music to sing, just like his colleague, Walter von Stolzing. With Stefan Treddel as David, I really love his voice all throughout. What more can I say about him? He has a very fine voice, a very fine stage presence, with such a youthful timbre, and he manages to really make the role of David really come to life. However, I do have one complaint about his costume, and as I said before, it was his wig. I did not like his wig at all. I thought it really clashed with his style. I mean, couldn't he ask for something a little bit more appealing to his figure? A little bit more appealing to his contour as well? I probably would have loved to see him in like long hair as well, just like Walter von Stolzing. Yeah, like I said, the wig definitely cramped with his style, but his singing was just really gorgeous. It's a very well pronounced voice. It's a very well done voice that really, really sweeps me off my feet. And then we get to the role of Eva Pogner, sung by Julia Kleiter. Now, Eva Pogner requires a full lyric soprano, or even that of a jugendlich dramatisches Sopran. You don't really need like a big Wagnerian soprano voice to really do this role justice. But any soprano who has sung the likes of Fiordaligi, Countess Almaviva, Donna Elvira, or Agathe, or Elisabetta di Valois, or Leonora di Vargas, or the Trovatore Leonora would usually flock to sing this role, as it's very, very gorgeous. She has one of the most gorgeous music, and even her solo "O sag's mein Freund, du Teuermann was it's just really gorgeous. It's one of the most gorgeous soprano pieces found in this opera. And with Julia Kleiter, I am definitely surprised to see that she's attempted this role, because of course I do like a more spinto soprano voice to sing Eva Pogna, but there's no doubt that a lot of light lyric sopranos have also sung this role as well. Examples being Hilde Guden and Helen Donath. With Julia Kleiter, I definitely enjoyed her singing as Eva Pogna. And for those of you who don't know Julia Kleiter, she started out in those soubrette soprano parts like Papagena for Magic Flute, alongside Dorothea Roschmann as Pamina and Erika Miklosa as the Queen of the Night. Then she graduated to the likes of Pamina, in which she sung in Zurich, and also sang the likes of Celia from Lucio Silla, Ilia from Idomeneo, and has also branched out to singing Zerlina and then Donna Elvira, and Marceline from Fidelio. She has a very gorgeous voice. Her high notes are just like comets. And her acting is so multifaceted. Of course, you see this young girl growing up to be a woman, and she's not so sure of how she has to deal with herself with new situations in her life. And that's what I really found so multifaceted about Julia Kleiter's portrayal of Eva. Singing her nurse is Anna Lapovskaya. Well, the nurse's name is Magdalena. Now, with Magdalena, you need a dramatic mezzo voice to really do this role justice. But of course, a lot of lyric mezzos and lyric contraltos would flock to sing this very fine role. Of course, I would like to have a mezzo-soprano who specialized in Azucena or Eboli, Neris, Lady Macbeth, Federica de Lost Time from Louisa Miller, Fricka, Prezzosilla, Laura Adorno, Carmen, Dalila, and many, many other dramatic mezzo characters to end up singing this role. But I thought with Anna Lapkovskaya's singing, I thought it was just gorgeous. I thought she was a very gorgeous presence on stage, and she manages to really give a lot of youth and vibrance to this wonderful role. And then we get to the rest of the master singers, sung by a huge array of veterans and newbies. The veterans being, let's see right here, Graham Clark, Siegfried Jerusalem, Rainer Goldberg, and Franz Matsura and Olaf Bär. And the newbies being Julia Orent and Paul O'Neill. Now, I thought that their collaboration together was just awesome, especially considering the likes you have Siegfried Jerusalem and Rainer Goldberg, Graham Clark, and even Franz Matsura on stage. What more can I say? It's just so epic, especially Matsura's as Hans Schwarz's one line. I thought it was just golden. It really shows that there's a lot of collaborative camaraderie found within these generations of singers, and I thought it was just awesome. Not to mention Jan Martinique as the Night Watcher. Even though I missed his part, I thought he was just a great actor all throughout. Not to mention the conducting from Daniel Barenboim, just excellent. The chorus, equally as excellent. So what more can I say about this premiere? Even though I only caught the third act, this definitely says a lot, as the singers were all in their A game, not to mention Daniel Barenboim, and not to mention the chorus. The production was very colorful, and even though I had sort of a gripe with David's wig, I thought the production and costumes were just awesome all throughout. And if you have time to catch this opera in its entirety, it's still going to play at the Staatsoper in Schillertheater. So I highly suggest that you catch this opera in its entirety. You will not be disappointed, especially when you have a great myriad of singers from all different generations. And this is what I'd have to say is probably one of the greatest ensemble pieces that I've ever seen in my life. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in later with my review of Meyerbeer's L'Africaine, which was shown at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. So until then, see you later, everybody.